Alright guys, so to start off this profile, we'll start with our Doom King package, which consists with our boss monster Doom King Ballerjock. So every standby phase, if there's a field spell in play, he can special summon himself from the graveyard. So while we have Zombie World out, every standby phase, whether it's yours or your opponent's, he's going to be special summoned from the graveyard, so we can send him to the graveyard if we're going to have Zombie World on the field as our way to special summon him. But as another means to summon him, we also play one Glow Up Bloom. So if Zombie World's on the field and Glow Up Bloom hits the graveyard, it banishes itself and it can special summon Doom King straight out of the deck. If Zombie World's not in play, it can add him to the hand, but it's better to put him directly on the field, obviously. And then to help us get that Zombie World on the field, we have 2 copies of Necroworld Banshee. So Banshee, when she's on the field or in the graveyard, can be banished as a quick effect during your turn or your opponent's turn to put a Zombie World on the field. And the cool thing about that is it can work even through Secret Village of the Spellcasters, because it counts as a monster effect being activated and not a spell being activated. So yeah, now we'll move on to our starters. So the best starter in all of zombies is Unizombie. So you play 3 copies of him. Basically, he can send cards from your hand and from your deck to the graveyard, and when he does, he targets a monster and increases its level by 1. That part of the effect's not really relevant, but what is relevant is the fact that he is a tuner that we use for Halka-Fibrax combos. And then to help get him, we also play 3 copies of Shiranui Solitaire. This basically acts as just 4th, 5th, and 6th copies of Unizombie, because when he's on the field, you contribute a zombie monster, including himself, to special summon a zombie tuner from the deck that has 0 defense, and Unizombie has 0 defense. So those are your starters. And we also play 3 copies of Mezuki. This guy is a monster reborn in the graveyard. You banish him and special summon a zombie from the graveyard, not once per turn. So if you put multiple copies, you can use that multiple times in the same turn. And then we also have his brother Gozuki, which kind of acts as a pseudo Unizombie by being able to send zombies directly from the deck to the graveyard. But it also has an effect that we can use for the combo, where if he's sent to the graveyard, you can banish a zombie other than himself to special summon a zombie from your hand. Alright, so now we play, to supplement our Halka-Fibrax combo, 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit at Hara. So this is a tuner that you can special summon from your hand while you control no effect monsters. So whenever we don't have any monsters on board, we can special summon this, and it's a tuner on board that we can link with any monster to make our Halka-Fibrax and go into our combos. Alright, then for further extenders, we also play a small danger package consisting of Jackalope, Tsuchinoko, and Mothman. So for Mothman, you could play Danger Nessie instead, but I like playing Mothman for the level 4 and the fact that it's a guaranteed draw and discard. So discarding is really good for getting your zombies into the grave. But you could play Nessie if you wanted to. Now for our brick cards, we have 3 cards that you kind of don't want to see in your hand. We have Despot 01, which we're summoning off the Halka-Fibrax, which is okay if you see it in your hand. It's just not a combo piece when it's in your hand. It's kind of a dead card until it's summoned. which can be directly from the deck. Then we have our two other cards that you definitely don't want to draw, which are Plague Spreader Zombie and Mecha Phantom Beast Coldwing. So the only way for us to special summon Coldwing is from the deck. So if it's on our hand, that part of the combo is just completely dead, and Plague Spreader needs to be sent directly from the deck to the graveyard in order to manipulate the levels of Riser Dragon for the combo. So both of these cards need to be in the deck for the combo to work. And that's it for the combo engine. Now we have 6 hand traps that we play in the deck, which is triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring and triple copies of Nibiru. So Nibiru is really good because even if we went first and we've got some stuff on board, we can still Nibiru over it and tribute our own monsters, because Doom King is going to come back from the graveyard during our turn, and then can banish their monster, their big token that they get from Nibiru. That's it for the monster lineup. Now on to the spells and traps. So I keep the spells and traps fairly simple. We start off with 3 copies of Zombie World. It's kind of the core of the deck, essentially. Turns everybody's monsters into zombie monsters while they're on the field and in the graveyard, which allows Doom King to negate their effects, since he can chain to any zombie monster activating its effect to either negate that effect that was activated or non-targeting banish one monster from the field or from the graveyard. So this allows him to chain to your opponent's effects on the field and in graveyard instead of just your own. Then we play 3 copies of Super Poly. Zombie World also lets us use any 2 monsters on the field for Super Poly material, so it's really good to play in the deck, as well as there being several other targets that you can play that will help you out against a lot of the meta decks. Then we play 1 copy of Foolish Burial and 1 Called by the Grave. Pretty self-explanatory. And then that's it for the spells, and then we play 3 copies of Rivalry of the Warlords for our traps. So Rivalry, when combined with Zombie World, can completely lock your opponent out of playing the game if they're not playing zombies with you. So Rivalry says that each player can only control 1 type of monster. So when your opponent has a monster on the field and you have Zombie World on the field, the monster they control is a zombie type. So when you activate Rivalry, they're not allowed to summon any monsters that are not zombie type. So if they're not playing zombies, then they can only summon monsters that are in the graveyard. And if they're on their first turn, it's unlikely that they have any monsters in the graveyard to special summon. So that is it for the main deck. Now we can move on to the extra. Alright, so we'll start off with our Lings. First we play Linkrevo to get our level 1 Glow Up Bloom to the graveyard. Then we play Vampire Sucker. She's a link that can be made with 2 zombie monsters, and anytime a zombie monster comes back from the graveyard, which our Doom King does very often, she can activate to draw a card once per turn. And what's cool about that is whenever she activates off of Doom King summoning himself, you can chain Doom King to her to banish a monster from your opponent's field or graveyard. So it just gives you an aggressive play during the standby phase whenever he comes back. And then next we have the Heart and Soul of our combo, Crystron Halqifibrax. Pretty much just the best card in the deck. If you make him plus any monster on the field, then we have our full combo end board. And then also with that combo we have Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. And then we have a couple Link 4s that are just good to go into Appaloosa, and then Borreload Dragon and Borrel Dragon for dealing with problem monsters and giving that extra damage. So that's it for our links. Then we play 3 synchro monsters. We have Herald of the Arclight, Borreload Savage Dragon, and then to help summon them, we have a Shooting Riser Dragon. So these guys have to R2 negates, plus Herald acts as a pseudo macrocosmos, which puts up a lot of problems for a lot of decks. So now we have 4 Super Poly targets. First off, we have Dragon Necro Nether Soul Dragon. So his material is 2 zombie monsters, so you can fuse him with any 2 monsters while Zombie World's on the field. The only thing about him is that he is a dragon type, so if you have your rivalry up and you already control zombies, then you can't Super Poly anymore. So Super Poly is just completely turned off while rivalry's in play and you control a zombie. We don't have any zombie fusions to go into. So just keep that in mind whenever you're playing. Then we have our generically good Starving Venom. Then we also have Dragostapelia for Dragoon and Vertanaconda. This guy gives us an extra negate that is a permanent negate that we can use as a quick effect during both players' turns. And then our last target is Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Just generically good in a lot of scenarios. A lot of different decks will end up having 2 monsters with the same attribute and different types to be able to summon him. And then lastly, for our extra deck, we play 1 Abyss Dweller. Alright, so that is it for the profile. Let's go ahead and go into our combo tutorial. Alright, so I'm going to be showing you guys a 2-card combo that I found using Shiranui Solitaire and Mizuki in hand. Alright, so we'll start off our combo by normal summoning Solitaire, and then Solitaire's effect will tribute him to summon our Unizombie from the deck. And then now we'll use Unizombie to send one from the deck to the graveyard. Send Gozuki. When Gozuki hits the graveyard, he'll banish the Solitaire, and we can special summon Mizuki from our hand. So now at this point, if you had something like Necroworld Banshee to discard, you could discard that as well with Unizombie. You can use each one of his effects once per turn, not just one. So now we have a tuner and another monster that we can link off to summon our Crystron Halqifibrax. And then trigger his effect to summon our Deskbot 01. Now we can Mizuki back our Gozuki. So, if you had discarded, let's say, a Necroworld Banshee, here you could send a Doom King, but in the case of just having the Solitaire and Mizuki as your only play, and the other 3 cards not mattering, we will send another Mizuki. So now we will link our Halqifibrax and our Deskbot into Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. And then on summon of Auroradon, he will summon 3 tokens. And now it's important to the combo that we don't have Zombie World up whenever these tokens are summoned, because Deskbot's effect is whenever 2 or more machines are summoned, he can summon himself from the graveyard. So then he'll summon on the summon of the tokens, which are level 3, so we can use them to synchro for 7 into our Shooting Riser Dragon. And then Shooting Riser Dragon will send our Plague Spreader from deck to grave to reduce his level by 2, dropping him down from a 7 to a 5. Now we can use Auroradon's effect to tribute one of the tokens, and our Gozuki to summon Mecha Phantom Beast Coltwing from the deck. So Coltwing, whenever it's summoned and we control another Mecha Phantom, has a mandatory effect to summon 2 more machine tokens that are level 3, which triggers our Despot to summon again. So now we have 4 that we can synchro into for Herald of the Arclight, giving us our first negate and our Macrocosmos. And then 5 and 3 for 8 into a Borreload Savage Dragon, onto which we can equip our Halqifibrax to give him 2 counters and a bonus 750 attack. And then now that Coltwing is back down to level 4 because we don't control tokens anymore, we can Mezuki back our Gozuki, and then overlay the 2 of them into Abyss Dweller. So now we've got 2 Omni Negates. They can't send cards from their hands or from their deck to the graveyard, and then any cards they do put in the graveyard can't activate their effects. So now the Abyss Dweller we can replace with Doom King if we have another card in our hand that lets us get Zombie World or lets us dump a monster from deck to graveyard. But this is all just with 2 cards. You've got another 3 in hand that you can play with. You could make this board plus Zombie World and Rivalry of Warlords to make the full lockdown, because Rivalry wouldn't be in effect until after your board's already set up. The only thing to keep in mind is that Herald affects your monsters being sent from hand and graveyard too. So if you don't use his negate, you can tribute him for Auroradon's effect to destroy 1 card on the field, and then before you end your turn, if you've got Zombie World on the field, you can Mezuki to put Herald back on the field to get that negate back. So yeah, that's it for the combo and profile video. I hope you all enjoyed, and stick around for another profile in the near future.